All right, it's day 3, and there's still a lot to learn. So you got to really dig deep, go really deep. You got 4 hours left. So this morning, we want to kind of recognize, all right, so last night we stopped at 2 a.m. Let's see. I guess the people that were later than 2 a.m. are probably not here yet, but we'll find out. All right, so raise your hand if you were up later than 2 a.m. last night. All right, stand up, be recognized. Let's give them a hand for being on time. And I have a prize for you that I'll bring to you. All right, also, where's Brenda Colby? Brenda, stand up. She gets the Twitter award. Come on up, Brenda. Give her a big round of applause for being our Twitter queen. We got a special gift just for you, so you have to look at it. Bring it out so people can see what it is. It's special rings with flashlights for nighttime blogging. So you can blog and tweet.
I have to admit, in the middle of the night, when my phone goes off, I pull the sheet up over it so my husband doesn't wake up, and I put a pillow between us so that I can tweet my friends back and play Words with Friends.
So this way she has special little flashlights that she can tweet all night long. Designed for nighttime blogging. So thank you, Brenda, for continuing to tweet. And we want to just talk about that. It's like, you know, you should be tweeting constantly about your work, about what you're doing, because it can't just come from big picture. It's got to come from you that are doing the practitioners, that are doing the work in the classrooms, and start trending stuff. Wouldn't that be cool if big picture learning or innovative education was the top trender every day on Twitter? How transformational could that be? So make sure you're doing it constantly. Brenda's setting the example. She's setting the bar high. I think we're at like 15 or 16 tweets in the last 2 days. So come on, catch up. All right, I'm going to bring up Carlos Moreno this morning. You may not have noticed him. Come on, Carlos. And he's going to introduce our alumni for this morning.
Thank you. Good morning. How's everyone doing? Sweet. So it is my pleasure to introduce this morning's keynote speaker. I had the pleasure of working with this young lady for 3 years as her advisor. As a lot of us would probably agree, we often have students that push us to the very edge in both a good and sometimes a not so good way. But I'm really proud of Jessica and who she is and all that she's accomplished, and excited that she'll have an opportunity this morning to share kind of her story with you. So please join me in welcoming Jessica Sanabria, our keynote speaker.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Carlos, for that wonderful introduction. I would like to just tell everyone that I'm truly grateful for being here today. And I would first like to thank Big Picture Learning and all its staff, Dennis Licky, Elliot Walsh, and Carlos Moreno for having me here today and nominating me. I'm truly honored to be here. I would first like to begin by telling you a little bit about myself. Before I entered the Met, I was a troubled teen raised in a broken home. I was the oldest out of 4 girls, and I didn't have the best father figure. My family was often moving from house to house, and at times our utilities would get shut off. My only escape was going to school, and I enjoyed every aspect of learning, and teachers always told me that in order to be successful, I would need an education. With that in mind, and also knowing the fact that there was nobody in my family who graduated from college. In fact, college wasn't something that my family praised. I was determined to go to school and just stay focused. In fact, there was, I'm sorry, a little nervous. So I wanted a better life than what I had, and I used my family's troubles as the fuel to my motivation to continue on and go to school. It was cutting close to my 8th grade graduation, and as any other middle school student, I had the biggest decision to make, and of course, that was choosing what high school I wanted to go to. I didn't know too much about the Met, but I submitted my application Because one thing I did hear was that students went bowling on the first day of school, and I had to see this for myself. So I submitted my application in high hopes that I would get into the school. And for some reason at that time in my life, even though everything was going wrong, I always felt that something positive would come out of coming to the Met. So I applied and I got accepted. But before I talk about me coming into the Met, I want to explain my previous experiences in a traditional setting. I found it to be quite boring. I always did my work on time, passed everything in. Kids were acting up around me. I always asked for extra classwork, and I never felt that I was challenged or pushed to do anything higher than what I was doing. I would say I was a nerd, and yeah, I wanted to stay ahead of the game no matter what, no matter how much it cost me. Other kids getting mad because I was getting things done on time and asking for extra work, it didn't matter. With all this in mind, at home, everything was still difficult at home, at school. And I strive to excel in school as a cover for my chaotic life. I lived in a home that involved domestic violence, and I watched as there was nobody there to help my mother. I didn't have much support, or let alone mentors or other supports there to help me. I had a feeling that the life I knew I deserved was right around the corner. When I first arrived to the Met, we went bowling, and I had fun. I thought to myself, wow, this is amazing, and I can't wait to see what day 2 had in store for me. My initial thoughts of the Met was, this school is a dream come true. No more classes, no bells ringing, no more pop quizzes, and students would take charge of their own learning. I would now have a voice. I would now be able to create a plan that's detailed around my interests and my goals. I realized that I was gonna be given opportunities that most youths my age wouldn't get in a lifetime. I was able to take advantage of college courses, trips to other big picture schools. I was able to facilitate a forensic workshop. And I also, if you didn't know, I also assisted with the conference planning of Big Bang 2 and 3. And I'm just blown away that we're here today at Big Bang 11, and I'm here in front of you beautiful guys today. And my mentors at the time were both Lonnie and Jill. I just want everyone to know that with every opportunity I was given, I'm truly grateful for all of it. When I first arrived to the Met, I was a typical teenager, loud, fun, and outspoken. Maybe too outspoken for some. I always had something to say no matter what. I couldn't see past what I believed in. Sometimes it worked for me, and other times it didn't. One thing's for sure, my principal, Nancy Diaz, was not putting up with it. She had no room for my attitude, and you know, at times we did clash. Nancy was persistent, and she never gave up on me, which is a memory that continues to motivate me to this day. During my first 3 years at the Met, I was able to intern at the Big Picture Company. For those first 2 years, my mentor was Lonnie Shumway, which was the conference coordinator for the Met and Big Picture. I was fortunate enough to take on all the projects that I've done with her, and our common bond, I would say, was the Big Bang. I was in charge of creating itineraries and confirming flight arrangement. I was the one that was placing phone calls to you all and confirming what date you're coming and if it was okay if you roomed with someone. So that was me calling. Lonnie ensured at the time that I was having the best experience, and I will say that she did a great job making sure I was comfortable, and I always was involved in the planning. I sat at the meetings. I took notes. She just made sure I had like the overall experience of an intern, and I'm grateful for that. During my sophomore year, I was lucky enough to continue my internship with her. I assisted her with an important conference called One Student at a Time, and it took place at Atlanta, Georgia. If you guys didn't know, I reside all the way here in Providence, so this would be my first trip outside of Rhode Island, let alone with the school. At Atlanta, Georgia, I was involved with 200 educators. So I was the only youth there. There was 200 people there, and the chief officer from the Bill Gates Foundation, I forget her name, she was there at the time. So it was just a big, big deal, and I got to experience it with my mentor and, you know, be a part of that. And I can't forget Jill Olsen-Crowley, who I worked with during my junior year, and I had to come to admire her greatly. She was my mentor for 1 year, and she was very supportive of me and the work that I have done at the Met. One of the most memorable LTI projects I have taken on was the SPURTS program. Is anybody here familiar with the SPURTS program? Well, for those of you that don't know, it's a student ambassador program with Met students, youth leaders. We travel to other big picture schools, and we sort of help like new schools that are upcoming, and we help them with advisory exhibitions, and we help them understand the big picture philosophy. So that was one project that I was able to take on in my junior year. I was able to put the program together with my mentor, Joe Battaglia, at the time. And I had to recruit other student youth leaders from various big picture schools, not just Providence. So it wasn't easy. And as much as I wanted to give up, my mentor was there, my advisor was there to keep pushing on me and, you know, to see past my struggles, and I stayed committed. So with that said, all of us students from the Met SPURTS program, we were no longer your average students. We were youth leaders, and we were committed to helping other students who were new to big picture philosophy. Although I was committed to my work at the Met, I must say I had a different experience than most students. I had 3 advisors through my 4 years. My first advisor was Siobhan Garcia, and she was my advisor for the first 2 years. It was hard to deal with at first, knowing that our advisor was leaving, but it was the reality, and we had to accept it. But the Met didn't give up on us. Right away, they recruited a new advisor to keep us together, and I thought that was important to not split up the advisory. But needless to say, she too did not last with us, not even a year. And we were hit with the news that we weren't gonna have the same advisor. But I don't know. The way I felt at the time, I didn't feel like it affected me so much because I was going through different changes. So I just kind of went along with it, and then I found out that I was going to be with Carlos Moreno, which is an awesome advisor, and I was just more than happy to have been a part of his advisory and going over there and being a part of that. So So at this time, you know, I had my principals involved, Doc was involved, everybody was involved, talking to us, giving us their support, and we made the transition to a new advisory possible. So at this time, I too was going through some changes, and the reason why I didn't focus so much on the whole advisory change was because I found out that I was 8 weeks pregnant during my junior year. At that time, I knew motherhood would not be easy, but I took on responsibilities and I matured. When I first found out I was pregnant, I couldn't believe it. I knew I was going to be a great mother. I just didn't know how I was going to juggle school and motherhood. I delivered my son during my junior year, and he was 5 weeks early to top things off, which was something that I didn't expect. My principal, Phil Price, was there from day one, literally from day one. You see, my water broke at school, and it was after school. Everyone's outside walking, getting ready to leave, and I'm walking to the vehicle because the hospital's a few blocks over, and this man opens the window, tall, skinny guy, bald-headed. He's like, "Woohoo, Jessica, you're about to have your baby," in front of the whole entire school. And I turned so red. I was so embarrassed. I just smiled because I knew he genuinely cared about me, and I just walked to the vehicle and act like that never happened. And I gave birth to my first son, Michael Cepeda, and it was truly a life-changing experience for me. Motherhood was definitely a challenge, but it wasn't the end of the world. I continued on with my schoolwork because to me, I had no other options. My family supported me the best way they could, and most importantly, the Met was behind me all the way. Phil, my principal, he went as far as to bring my final report to my professor at CCRI so I could receive my final grade. I passed my English class with an A-. I was in total shock. My experiences in college was great. They always knew that I was a Met student, so they always offered, the professors would offer their support to me. If I needed extra time to work with them, like after the class, they would give it to me. I didn't get special treatment, but however, when I was pregnant, I could no longer fit in my desk. I was about 7 months pregnant, and my professor noticed it, and she gave me her desk. So I sat at her desk for the remainder of the class, and I don't know, that's just one memory I won't forget. And one thing I forgot to mention was I was the only student at the Met who took on a college course during my 9th grade year. The Met has impacted my life immensely. By the time I hit my senior year, I was much more mature and focused than the previous years. I was a mother, and the expectations of me graduating was higher than ever before. The Met has helped me achieve the goals that I was truly passionate of. The Met has I've learned how to prepare for exhibitions that would later benefit me when I was doing presentations at my job. I've learned to be more responsible and to take on tasks independently. I've learned skills that would be helpful towards my career today, and that has allowed me to be more confident in myself. If I weren't a Met student, I probably wouldn't have made it through high school. I was a teen mother faced with many challenges, and I feel that a traditional school wouldn't have been able to support me the way the Met did. I could have been another student lost in the system and a possible dropout. At a traditional school, I would not have been able to connect with the mentors and advisors the way I did here at the Met. During my senior year, I went on college interviews, and I felt prepared. The colleges that I were accepted to was Johnson & Wales University, Rhode Island College, and Roger Williams University. Roger Williams University was at the top of my choice, but I didn't accept to go there. I chose to go to Johnson & Wales University because I was a mom at the time. It was closer. I knew I wasn't going to commit to long drives in the morning, especially in the cold winter. One memory that stays with me through the whole college interview process, I was so confident. I felt so prepared. My advisor, Carlos Moreno, did a great job on making sure that I had practiced before going on an interview. As much as I was very discouraged, and as much as I was discouraged, he didn't let me knock myself. He always reminded me of all the work that I've accomplished at the Met, who I was as an individual, and he always pushed me to go. And during this whole time, you know, I'm a mother. I have my child. And I didn't have the support from my mother. So when I went on these interviews, I went by myself. That's just how it was. If my advisor was able to come, he would be there with me. But one memory that would stay with me is the day that I went to Roger Williams University. It was a big deal. Only one student at the Met has ever got into the school, and I was eager to try to make this recruiter change their mind, open their mind to possibly letting me get into the school. So I went to Roger Williams University all by myself with no parent, nobody, just myself. And I was sitting in the waiting room, and you know, there's other students there with their parents, they're practicing and they're smiling, and I'm over here nervous, and I'm like, oh man. Needless to say, I did the interview. I went by myself, I told the recruiter my story, and he was just blown away. And he shook my hand and thanked me for being there and telling my story, and he said he would try his best to get me in. And a few months after that, I received the acceptance letter. I was just blown away by that. And I was the second student in the Met to have gotten into Roger Williams University that year. Only 2 got in. So at the moment, I currently hold a bachelor's degree in science, and I majored in criminal justice with concentrations in social work, psychology, and history. At first, my transition to college went smooth. I think it was because I had many years of not actually sitting in a classroom, being bored, juggling motherhood, and I was able to stay on the dean's list for the first 2 years of college. And I think a lot of that had to do with me being at the Met, being able to take advantage of taking college courses at CCRI. I feel that that has prepped me during my years for undergraduate school. The reason why I chose criminal justice was because of my LTI project. You see, my first 3 years, I said I assisted with conference coordinating, but my last year I did a project on forensic science. With my advisor, I put together a curriculum for other students for empirical reasoning, because as you guys may know, empirical reasoning is kind of one of the most challenging goals to add to a learning plan, and I felt that I was interested in forensic science. I'm going to put this workshop together, and I'm going to recruit students so that they can have this on their learning plan. And so I did it. Students were able to take part in hands-on activities. I ran the workshops. It was like weekly workshops, and I believe it ran for like 12 weeks, and they all received certificates upon completion. And that's pretty much the reason why I chose criminal justice as my major, and I felt like it was the right choice. I'm currently working for the Providence Center, which is a mental health agency providing people from all walks of life with mental health and substance abuse services in their homes, schools, and neighborhoods. The program that I work for is called the Family Care Community Partnership, also known as FCCP. The program is a community-based program that wraps services and creates individualized plans and service plans for each family. Not only am I connecting families to services and resources, I am empowering families to take lead in their own planning. I encourage them to reach out to their natural supports so that they will no longer need to rely on case management. Most of our referrals come from families who have been indicated by the Department of Children and Youth, also known as DCYF. I also work with youth who are adjudicated to the training school, and we also take self-referrals. The work that I have done is meaningful to my community because we are no longer enabling families. We are showing them a process that they could use throughout their lives. The goal is to keep families together and to address any barriers that families face on a daily basis. A lot of the issues that I come across while working with my families is, number one, access to mental health services. A lot of people who are dealing with mental health issues are undocumented and they don't have access to that. And I'm sort of that resource there, helping them, looking for free things in the community so that they can get their mental health needs addressed. Because, of course, if the parents are not doing so well, neither are their children. I also deal with cases that involve domestic violence, truancy, families who need academic support, and I also work with cases who have involvement for neglect or abuse and are indicated by DCYF. Is this the type of work that I thought I would be doing? Yes. If anyone knows me, I am truly passionate, working with people, helping others, and I feel that is like the true reward in life. I feel like making other people happy and seeing them progress, it's big. In my mind, it's big, and I enjoy it. The Met has contributed a lot towards my career. For example, writing a learning plan. That's something I do now on a daily basis. We write RAP plans that are individualized to each family, and each plan is different. Another thing, exhibitions, pick-me-ups. I'm a facilitator. I work with families. We bring people from other mental health agencies, friends, families. We bring everyone to the table when I facilitate these meetings, and I'm comfortable when I do it. I get everyone involved, even the children, and I feel like being at the Met, being an expert student, running advisory, doing pick-me-up, these are the things that help me in my career today. And also, we can't forget team building and leadership. Those are all the qualities any student at a big picture school is going to pick up, and that's going to be helpful for any job. The Met has meant a lot to me over the years. The memories that I will hold the most are all of the LTI projects I've completed, witnessing what other students have accomplished, and I enjoy being part of a community that felt real. The memories that will stay with me the longest are the experiences that I share with my advisors and advisories. We all went through our struggles, but in the end, no matter how drastic our lives changed, we all graduated together. No one was left behind, and I feel like the Met achieved its mission when it said, "No child left behind." I am a strong believer in the Met, and I encourage all youth, advisors, principals, and mentors to take advantage of the learning experience. The people who have influenced me during my years at the Met were all three of my mentors, Lonnie, Jill Olsen, and Joe Battaglia. My first advisor, Siobhan Garcia, influenced me to think of an education past high school. My third advisor, Carlos Moreno, influenced me the most. No matter how difficult a day got for me, he always reminded me of the will and motivation to complete things. Carlos was different from everyone else, and he was more than an advisor. He was a friend. He was the only person at the Met that was able to push me to take on new projects that were past my comfort level. He saw right through my stubbornness and always gave good advice. There weren't too many male figures in my life, and I would say that Carlos is one of the greatest advisors to have stepped foot on the Met, let alone big picture learning. I haven't been involved in the Met since I graduated, but I would like to be a part of it again. I would like to personally thank Nancy Diaz for taking a part in my life as well. She may have known it then, but I did look up to her. And I always thought to myself that I can too be as successful. Nancy didn't play any games, and she helped keep the school together, and she took the time to know every youth in the building. She is a leader, and I just want her to know that I do look up to her. I would like to thank everyone who was involved in my education at the Met, even if they didn't spend a lot of hours with me. Just seeing Doc in the hallways and him saying hello and me watching his video, I can't remember the title, but that was something that truly inspired me, the work he's done, and talking to him today, this morning, and finding out how much big picture learning is expanding. I'm just blown away, and I wish I could be a part of it more, and I think from this day on I do want to try to be more involved and possibly be a mentor for a Met student. Thank you, Doc. I would like for every big picture advisor in here to remember the importance of a relationship with a student, to never give up on a student no matter how challenging it may be at times. If you come across an angry, stubborn student, just remember my story. And know that every youth has a unique story, and they just haven't discovered who they are and what they want to get out of life. Be persistent and keep pushing them to do their best. They may not have someone at home that is doing that for them. Remember, we spend a lot of time at school and sometimes not as much as home. And I just want to thank everyone for being here today and giving me this opportunity to talk to you guys.
So let me tell you what she was really like as a freshman. Nancy and I could be up here for hours. You're lucky we're being webcast here and I can't really tell the story. But I hadn't seen Jessica since graduation, and I remember all the stories, and so it even moves me more to see what you have done with yourself, with your life, with your family. It's your fiance over there someplace. He's still there. There he is. So, and yes, you will be a mentor. You'll get a call in the morning. So Nancy can come up too, since she gave you some props. And you really know what she was like, Nancy. Don't say it, Nancy. So, Jessica, this is just an award from Big Picture for, you know, persevering and getting through the Met that wasn't easy, and then getting through college. It was fantastic, and going on to get your master's and using everything you learned as a student to carry on. I mean, I love that. That's what it means. When we have students that become teachers here or workers here, you just feel that we're beginning something bigger. And congratulations as a mentor.
Well, since she told me yesterday she wanted to be a mentor, so we already signed her up. We already have some students lined up, so don't worry. You'll get a call August 29th.
Thank you, everybody. Give her that. You're gonna hold on her gift, Elliot? Or you're gonna give it to her, man? All right, hold on.
Principal Peter. Yeah, principal, super. Okay. All right. It's time to recognize one of our superintendents once again. This time it's Peter. Come. Oh, look at him. He's so surprised. Don't feel so surprised. Come on up here, Peter. I knew I liked this guy, but I didn't know why until today when he told me he was born in Brooklyn. I reminded him because I had my shirt on. So it's hard to say this, so many things, because he's got the right energy for being a superintendent, which very few superintendents have. And as Jennifer said, she used the word able and accountable. And sometimes you got to be account-abled. It's different. Peter came to me and he said, when I saw him at the school, the first graduation of the school in Lafayette, Elliot, we went from worst to first. And that's because it wasn't just about accountabilities from up here. It was about accountabilities for everybody, including students. And that's a big deal. And he saw it right away. He came here off the bus with his cup. Where's your cup? Bring that cup up here. That cup gets an award, too. Always with the cup. All right, it's great stuff, because you need that object to hold you and ground you. It's wonderful. So he's a Met person through and through, and we really appreciate it, because he's had a lot of struggles in his environment, in his community. And he kept on persevering. He never gave up, and he never will give up. And he's got a wonderful school and a wonderful staff over there and wonderful students. When we brought a Maori population to the school, because they have a lot of native students from the Onondaga Reservation, all of whom graduated this year, first class. We're probably 80 or 90% wouldn't have graduated because we connected to their culture and let them be them. And Peter allowed that to happen in a community that's torn about this, quite frankly. Very torn. So, Peter, this is a real special award and time for all of us. So I'm just real happy to have you up here. It's just an amazing.
And when I was being a real acting principal, I always thought most of my colleagues, it was not a great group of people in the world. Pretty tight, pretty people playing school. Superintendents are worse. And so when we find one who really just thinks about kids and thinks about not the rules, but how do you do stuff? And the day I visited, he just pulled a bunch of parents together, and you know, one of the teachers drove me through the reservation. It just, they cared. And you know, it's what I said at the beginning. It's about how we run life, but somehow when people get in power, they change. And you haven't changed, and you've been a real force, and I appreciate it. So on behalf of Big Picture, this is the Innovative Schools Award in honor of your support in a bold way of innovative schools that educate one student at a time. Thank you, Peter. Say a word. Say a word.
Yeah, come on.
Well, thank you very much. You know, Jessica, where's Jessica? You know, I got my first itch because I came to Big Bang 2 or 3. We had some innovators in Western New York that loaded a bunch of us, principals and superintendents. I think I was a principal at the time. on a bus, and we traveled here, and I probably talked to you then. And I kind of got this itch about education. I was superintendent at a school. They didn't want to do much, but they were doing all right. When I, 5 years ago, interviewed for a position in Lafayette, I had a graduation rate of 67%, and in the 40% range for Native American kids. And I said, you know, so I sat down with the board in my first interview, and I said, I got an idea. This place called Big Picture, and you know, maybe we could start a big picture school here, and you know, if you hire me, that's what we're going to do. And they hired me. And I had 7 board members that stuck with us, and it was tough. You know, it's not easy. You know, watch Doc's movie. It was kind of like that for us. But it didn't matter. That 67% graduation rate is now 97% graduation rate. And all I did was get the idea many years ago. And you know, I do carry the cup, and I always, for 25 years now, I've carried a tin cup when I go to conferences and stuff, because a friend of mine who was doing it said, thank you. It's a little fish. No. You know, we were in the environmental movement, and you know, every styrofoam cup you used or paper cup you used was, you know, a little damage, you know, and so he said, you know, never stop doing a little because you can't do a lot. So I do a little, you know, I don't use a cup here and there and stuff like that, and so I carry it. And it's kind of like that, I think, with Big Picture. You know, I'm only doing a little, but for those kids, it makes a huge difference, for every one of those families. And Susan and the staff that she's put together, you know, David and Lenny and Ken and everybody, you know, would you guys all stand up? April, Walt. Those are the people who did the work. The Board of Education and I fight the battles, you know, and we'll continue to fight those for a little while maybe. But I've said enough. I just appreciate everything that you guys have done for me, for my life, because my life is meaningful because I met you guys. And every one of you should feel that at some point if you haven't already. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. I love you. All right. What the hell did you put in there?
I just have a quick announcement. Elliot has a couple quick announcements. When I walked in this morning, Jeff came up to me. Where are you, Jeff? And Jose, both of them came up to me and said something to me. And I said, would you say it to the group? Come on up here for a second. Okay? And where's Carol? Is Carol here? Come on up here for a second. This is just what happened to me on the way in today. Now, watch Carol carefully. Watch her carefully. You can't really notice why I'm calling her up yet. You can't. This is perhaps my greatest influence this weekend. Take a look at her feet. All right. She went and bought some shoes yesterday. She got the new model. All right. So I have influence. Thank you. You guys just grabbed me and said something, and it was important to me, so I thought you should share it.
For me, I've been an educator for almost 32 years, and a lot of my coworkers said, you know, what in the world are you getting involved with? New York State is highly regulated. It chokes off creative thinking and on and on. And Lafayette has been a wonderful influence for us. And I came here as a seasoned individual with a lot of nicks on my neck because I'm a diehard advocate, and I've been criticized for being a Pollyanna, you know, that overly optimistic, but I'll never give up on a kid. And so here's the opportunity. And I said to Dennis quite seriously that every day my fears have been belayed. I've got the context now of how it all fits in, and now I can do it. So I'm where I'm supposed to be, doing what I'm supposed to be doing with the people I'm supposed to be doing it with, and I'm going to keep riding this tide in the big, deep dive for a while. Thank you.
For me, after I started as a teacher a while back, and I was frustrated because I didn't see any progress in the system that I was working with, and I went to industry. and I spent about 25 years in industry, and then I came back and I became a teacher again. And I have been trying to do my part. For 13 years now, I've been teaching again, and I have been seeing progress. Now, when I came here, I was really overwhelmed. That's a word that I could use, to see so many examples of success. And so I came this morning to meet with him because I wanted to get a copy of his book. Okay? We're going back to New Jersey, to Perth Amboy. We're going to be sharing this information with other teachers and try to motivate them to start our program. We are starting this time. And so what I can say to him was, there is hope.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You can get off the stage now, guys. All right, no. It's mine now, no. And the last thing I just want to say is, again, Math Hoops. Khalil's going to do a workshop here. We're testing the materials, the next level. They're being printed as we speak in the fall. So if you're interested, there's a workshop in here, or sign up for Khalil, and you could have these math games at your school in the fall. So, El?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. So, Mildred, Jay, come on up here for a second. So, Brian, can you flash that up there? So, this is kind of what we're talking about in a different kind of way. Mildred's been doing conferences at her school. We don't even know about them sometimes. This time we're going to know about it and can tell everybody. And Jay works for a couple other organizations, just one.
One CSSR, but also with NASSP as well.
Right, national organizations. Well, I got a little advice for you, Jay, about Mildred, because they're going to do a 300-person conference at Mildred's school. National conference, one-day deep dive. And he said, I like that deep dive stuff. The advice I got for you is you can go in, but as Mildred said, you can't come in here redecorating. All right? It's going to be what it is, and that's what we want. And I think Mildred's an incredible example of taking the ball and running with it all the time, making things happen at our school that have a national presence. And that's a big deal for all of us, because people are coming from all over the country to her school, and they're going back, and they say, yeah, we can do this, because it's happening all over, okay? And that's a big, big deal. So in order for us to all survive in this kind of climate that Peter was talking about and others, we have to do that kind of work as well. So that's a big deal. So I just want to point that out to you all. This is a big thing. Have those conferences at your school. Organize those policy people. Organize other teachers around. And I want to thank you, Jay, and your organization, and Mildred, of course, because she's been to their national conference, what, 2-3 times already, presenting the work of the San Diego Mets. So thanks a lot. All right. Two other things, you know I travel all the time and not in one place, and so I sit at a bar a lot of times, and I just have a kind of glass of water or something. I just get up. What? And I just got off the phone the other day, and this is how this happens. And I'm speaking to a guy who used to do some consulting with us in New Mexico. That baby's looking. I like that. I said, really? He said, hey, how you doing? All right. So I don't know if it's the lights or my head. Whatever it is, it's good. I know somebody's listening to me. That's what it is. So anyhow, well, wait a second, because this one's directed at you, so don't laugh so. So I'm off a call from New Mexico, and they want us to work on economic development to start some workforce development. I said, sure, Joe, I'll help you out. This is town in Farmington, New Mexico. Four Corners, never been there. I don't know much about New Mexico. I got a guy from Brooklyn, but I don't travel all over to that part of the country. So I'm sitting down at the bar. This guy sits next to me, and he says, what do you do? I said, well, I'm here. I'm at this bar a lot. I don't tell him what I do. And then he tells me he's here for a plant pathology conference. I said, oh, that's very interesting, right? Turns out, where does he live? In that town. So I'm talking to him about how to help that town. Then another woman, young woman, pulls up next to me. Her name is Carly. And she says, well, I said, what are you doing here? And she says, I'm here for the plant pathology conference. I said, all these plant pathologists, pretty wild, huh? So I said, well, where do you live? She says, Sacramento. I said, you know our school in Sacramento? She said, no. I said, well, she says, I work in the environmental stuff and I do plant pathology. She says, and I tell her about the school. She says, oh, I want to be a mentor at the school. So, Alan, here's a card. And for those of you who can't find mentors out there, just sit at a bar. All right? It's very, very simple. You just make connections all the time. I solve all my problems by doing that. Okay. All right. All right. So now I just want to make sure, because we have a special, we work with the Muse School, and they work with us, and they're here right now, and they're going to do a presentation and a workshop around something called PCM, which has a self-efficacy piece and a piece around social and emotional growth, as well as figuring out who students are, who you are, and giving students what they want and need. I hope I said that really right, the need and want and need, because that's a big part of this. So I encourage you to sign up and go to that. That's Jeff and Rebecca there. All right, and that's, I introduced Joe and Jamie before. So right now, come on up, Carrie, and she'll tell us what's going on. Thank you.
All right. Okay, you got a couple hours left to deep dive, so dive deep. So what's going to happen next is you're going to have workshops, then advisory time, and then we all end back here. And so as we're dismissing, I would like all of our workshop leaders and advisors to stand and be recognized and thanked. Come on, stand up. There's a lot more. They're just being shy, because we can't do it without them, and so make sure you pat them on the back and say you're awesome and thank you. So yeah, head on out to workshops and then advisory and then back here for our final finale. Have a great morning.